Freelance writing has given me the freedom to A, work from home, B, work the hours I want to work, and C, support myself financially for the last 4 years. In this video, I'm going to tell you how and why I got started as a freelance writer, and hopefully you'll feel inspired to chase your freelance dreams too. My name is Alexander Boswell, and I've been a freelance content writer for the last 4 years, since 2020, and I thought I'd start making videos about my career journey so far to share my story and hopefully help aspiring freelance writers like yourself kickstart your freelance journey. I want to preface this video with a caveat. I started writing and later freelancing when I was still single. I was living with my parents with minimal responsibilities, and I just earned a master's degree in marketing. Obviously, that meant I was in a pretty privileged position to be able to take the risks that I did at the start of my journey. I have, however, connected with tons of freelancers who started their journeys being dependent on full-time work, being parents of young children who've had to balance their time between work, raising their kids, and somehow still managing to grind to make a business. Hats off to you guys. But all of our stories are unique, and so will yours be. The purpose of this particular video is to share my story, how I got started, and what it's been like so far. So as a TLDR, this is what my journey looked like. I started writing personal essays and articles on Medium throughout 2019. I wanted to start a PhD after finishing my master's in 2019, but my job couldn't keep me as a part-time employee. So basically, I said, I want to start my PhD. I guess I'm quitting my job, which I did. I used the experience I gained writing Medium articles to create a gig on Fiverr, and after some Fiverr gigs, I used that experience to build a business website, start networking in Slack groups and on LinkedIn. Networking then got me my first few gigs. Then I started getting some inbound interest from clients and through referrals, and that's pretty much how it's been for the last 3 years. But let's get into some of the details. So as I said, my story starts in 2019. I've always loved the written word. Reading and writing was kind of my thing growing up. I made a few scattered blog posts over the internet during my time, but towards the middle of 2019, I discovered Medium. I think I was a little bit behind the game by then. There were already plenty of creators and influencers who were, selling courses on how to write on Medium and writing about writing on Medium. But the platform did provide me an opportunity to practice, and it taught me how to write for an online audience. Obviously, I wanted to make a bunch of money and be one of those Medium influencers, cringy as that might sound looking back on it now. But in chasing that goal, I learned a lot about writing with the reader in mind and not writing what I just wanted to say. There's a big difference. It actually helped me put into practice some of the things I'd learned during my master's degree. But after finishing my master's, I got an entry-level office job, sad times, and that was the start of 2020, and obviously we all kind of know what happened at that point. By August 2020, I decided I wanted to start my PhD in consumer behavior, but the powers that be at my job said that they couldn't fund a part-time employee, which obviously turned out to be a blessing in disguise. I quit my job on good terms, and basically I doubled down on learning how to properly write blog posts, which included learning SEO, content marketing strategy. I learned a bit of Canva to give a bit of value add for adding graphics to the blog posts I was writing. Basically, I learned why brands use blogs and what value they got from them. By the time I knew I was going to quit my job, I knew also that Medium wasn't going to provide the kind of income that I wanted or needed to at least contribute to my household. So I hopped onto Fiverr to offer writing services, but not before I published a few articles on Medium on the topic of marketing. When building my Fiverr gig, I knew that I was never gonna be able to sustain myself by competing with the bottom feeders. Even back then, there were people charging like $10 per blog post, and this was before ChatGPT was a thing. With the stuff I'd learned from uni, I realized I needed to offer different messaging and positioning, which is to say, create a more premium experience. I learned that people in the content world valued a native English speaker. Being born and educated in the UK, I like to think I have a pretty good grasp of the English language, even if it is weird sometimes. And my expertise was naturally marketing. I set up a Fiverr gig to serve a particular kind of client that was looking for content surrounding marketing and marketing technology, and I priced it at $150. I didn't actually have to wait too long for my first client to pop up, but for this client, I ended up writing pitch decks, which obviously is something I wasn't actually going for, but hey, they were paying me to write, and it felt awesome. It wasn't long before I started seeing the downsides of working on Fiverr. The platform takes a 20% cut or commission fee. And after that, for me, there were some currency conversion fees and then some more fees for transferring to my bank account through PayPal. So I started networking on LinkedIn and in Slack groups like Peak Freelance, where I learned that other freelancers were making upwards of $1,000 per blog post, which blew my mind. So I spent time learning the ropes of marketing my services to clients directly, leaning on the experience of other writers and repositioning my niche to B2B SaaS or software as a service and MarTech. I built a freelance business website and eventually stopped working on Fiverr altogether. I also wrote a few targeted blog posts on my website to build up a bit of a SEO presence. I started posting more on LinkedIn about freelancing and what I was learning about B2B SaaS in the MarTech industry. As my experience, promotion, and learning grew, so did client interest. Through networking and putting myself out there, I got a few initial clients. After those initial clients, I managed to increase my rates. And it was about this time I met my partner, and we unconventionally moved in together after 3 months. And this was almost a year into freelance writing. So obviously I needed to step up my game because now I was even more responsible. Well, I wasn't responsible before, but now I was more dependent on earning money to pay a much larger amount of rent and bills and things like that. Thankfully, not too long later, I managed to get my first big name client, which was Vimeo, who reached out through my website contact page. At this point, I realized that my services page on my website had actually started to rank in the top 5 results for the term B2B SaaS freelance writer. And this was the catalyst for me to use Vimeo's big name to attract other similarly big named clients within the industry of B2B SaaS. And in doing so, I was able to increase my rates again, which kind of leads me up to today, really. That's a iterative process that I've been doing for the last 3 years. So that's pretty much how my journey as a freelance writer started. It's worth pointing out that yes, I built my freelance writing business while studying and writing my PhD thesis. And my thesis is almost done, by the way. Nearly there. 4 years later. In that time, I learned a crap ton about content writing, content marketing strategy, and how to continually upskill myself to make sure I keep providing high value to my clients. So that's my story. Interested in building yours? I'm going to be posting videos every Monday with how-tos, advice, and my experiences of freelance writing, general career development, and productivity. So if that's your vibe, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and stay up to date with my channel. That's it for now. Ta-ta, until next time.